So I want to talk a little bit about irrigation and water management in our overwintered tunnels, and that is one thing you definitely want to think about if you're considering planting into an unheated overwintered tunnel is how to manage irrigation. And so for us, you can see we have 4 lines of drip irrigation set up on each of these beds, and that works really well. When we're transplanting into the beds in the fall, we're able to water them in nicely and water them enough to get them established and growing. But then for us, we typically shut the water off here. It depends a little bit on the weather, but usually sometime in November, around Thanksgiving, the ground freezes, the hoses freeze. We don't have access to water in these tunnels through most of the winter. And so for that reason, and then we aren't able to get access to water again until the ground starts to thaw in the spring. And so usually for us, that is sometime in the end of March, beginning of April. And one thing to consider for your tunnel, at least for us, we have found that by the time we're able to get these drip tapes running again, it's past the point when the plants are asking for water. And so for our overwintered plantings, generally, once winter hits and once the cold weather hits, once daylight drops below 9 hours a day, the plants kind of go into a holding pattern, and there really is little to no growth happening on the plants. They're not asking for water. The temperatures are quite cool. There's not a lot of transpiration happening, and so they're able to hold comfortably through the winter and into the end of February, beginning of March. But what we see then is that as the days start to lengthen, growth is triggered in the plants again, and they start to put on vegetative growth, and they start calling for water, at least for us, earlier than we're able to provide it to them through our drip irrigation system. And so how we have managed that is we've brought water out in barrels and hooked up a hose and done sort of one-time waterings as needed. That's typically the end of February through March, again, depending on the spring and the water needs of the plants. That usually happens a couple of times before we're able to set up this drip irrigation again in the spring. So as you can see from the tunnel, it works really well, and the plants are able to bounce back in the spring by the time we're able to get the drip running again. But that's definitely something to consider. I would recommend having an irrigation plan for your tunnel that considers the possibility of things freezing and not being able to water until later in the spring.